Well, first of all, I don't have all the detail. As you know, from a legal perspective, there's a convention that covers the civil aviation between countries. It's known as the Chicago Convention. And under that, Article 5, I understand, civil aviation has a right to land for refueling stops, and there's no restriction on who the passengers are, or no checks provided for. This, as I said, is the way civil aviation operates.
And indeed, the
Um,
Department of Transport have said that it was obviously, as we know, a private plane, a civilian aircraft, and under legislation, they don't have to inspect them. They don't need to offer them clearance. But this was a private plane doing the work of the US government. So, has there been an attempt here to circumvent that legislation?
well. Again, I don't have that information. It was a civil aircraft, so therefore it was flying under civil law. If it was a military aircraft, that would be an entirely different thing. I've read the reports that talk about the individuals on board. I've no confirmation. The government has been provided with no confirmation that I'm aware of in relation to that. So it's not possible to comment on something that we don't have all the facts on. But we are aware, of course, of the activities that are going on in the United States by the immigration people, and it's certainly something that I think we all look on with a level of trepidation, because we see Irish citizens tied up in the same situation. But we have to be mindful too that every country has its own systems in relation to immigration and the control of it. As you know, Ireland has returned citizens to other countries where they don't comply with our immigration law, or who have sought asylum and haven't obtained it, and they're returned to their respective country, but it's done in a respectful way. Appropriate services are provided on the return journeys, and that's a practice that I would hope other countries would follow as well. But because I don't have the details of what's on this flight, yes, I've read the media reports, but from a government perspective, you can't just comment without having all the facts available.
And as you mentioned, Ireland and Irish airports have a role in facilitating those flights in relation to deportations. But of course, there have been serious questions raised around the immigration enforcement system in the US and the actions of ICE. Indeed, we saw this week that the Irish Times reported that Shannon Airport has been used for refuelling for ICE deportation flights 10 times in the past year. So is Shannon now playing an active part in the activities of ICE?
No, I mean, Shannon has a refueling facility for civilian aircraft that fly through the airport. It wouldn't be for the airport to know what activity is taking place there. The aircraft go through under the Civil Aviation Code, and quite frankly, that's as far as the airport or the Irish authorities can deal with it.
Another question that came up in relation to this story was the fact that, according to the reports, the men who were deported, the 8 Palestinian men, were brought to Tel Aviv and were then brought to the West Bank. Those men, at least some of them, would say they had no connection to the West Bank, had no relatives, no real way of integrating there. And we know the West Bank is, depending on who you ask, of course, since the ceasefire, an active war zone, and we're deporting people, or at least playing a role in deporting people to that place. Is there an issue when it comes to international law?
No, I think we've got to be very clear. We're not playing a role in it. Civil aviation is governed by the Chicago Convention. Ireland has signed up to that. Other countries have as well. So we have a duty. If a civil aircraft is coming through and seeks to land for a technical refueling stop, that we must provide those services. So that's,
and you wouldn't say that's
law.
Playing a role at all?
No, I wouldn't. Absolutely not, because the Irish government must adhere to, in the same way as if it was a civil aircraft emanating from Ireland going through another contracting party to the Chicago Convention, would have to provide those technical refueling stops. And I think whilst that's the law, and then that, from an Irish perspective, we have to adhere to that. Military flights are an entirely different thing.
Just finally on this, Timmy, does this raise any questions for you around Shannon Airport's role in the US military machine and now its immigration enforcement operation?
No, I certainly don't think it does at all. Shannon provides technical stops for civil aircraft under the civil aviation law, which is governed by the Chicago Convention. Shannon and its management team adhere strictly to that. And where they're requested, or where there's a request to land on a technical stop for refueling, Shannon complies with that, and in doing so complies with international law.